Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge with your latest Manchester United news, and this is scary. Manchester United's financials coming out. Also, Romano basically saying that Carrick could be getting the job. That's not the scary thing. It's the financials that have come out for Manchester United today. They have turned a profit, but when you delve into it, it's absolutely terrifying. It really is absolutely terrifying. We have turned a profit over the last few months. But we've turned a profit because they've cut costs, they've cut wages, they've sacked half the workforce. Anybody who's worked in business knows this is a one-trick pony. You can't do it again. You've literally sacked half your workforce and you've got rid of the big wages. You can't do it again. So turning a profit for a quarter in the financial year and going, oh, we've turned a corner, you can't do it again. And this, as we delve into it, has a huge impact as to why we might go for Michael Carrick, cheap. How do we fund the stadium? £500 million worth in transfer fees, owed in transfer fees as well. And this is why Man United are on thin ice. And I've seen fans tonight on social media going, oh, we've turned a profit, we're back. People are saying spend the profit. And I'm like, you do realise we've spent about 12 million on debt interest in the last few months again as well. Just 12 million out of the door on debt interest. The total debt is at about 1.3 billion at the moment. Spurs and Everton have more debt than us, but they've built new stadiums. I think we're third from bottom for debt in the Premier League, but Spurs and Everton have built new stadiums. We're 1.3 billion in debt and we haven't even built the stadium yet that's going to cost 2 billion. This is really scary, and I'll tell you why. Because next season, we will probably be in the Champions League. And they're banking on that. But it's only 1 year in the Champions League. And it's only £100 million. How is this going to work? You've basically got to stay in the Champions League every year for the next 5 years to make this work. That £100 million has got to go a long bloody way, considering you own £500 million in transfer fees. The club's in debt. And you're cutting wages off players that you probably need to replace. The big problem is, and many people will understand this, but some won't, is even if you don't understand the financials, it really comes down to this. We are owned by people who are trying to run the club on the cheap. And Manchester City are trying to spend as much money as they can. They're actually restricted by how much they want to spend. They would spend more tomorrow because they've got rich owners. Newcastle would, Aston Villa would, a few other clubs would. So some clubs in the Premier League would spend more than they can. They just can't get the money in. Man United don't want to spend. We want to run on the cheap. That's our owners. So when people were singing about INEOS and Sir Jim Radcliffe, that's how he's running the football club. The same way as the Glazers. He's running it like a business. So we have turned a profit on the quarter, but we've turned a profit because we sacked half the workforce and we got rid of a few big wages. What we're going to do in the next quarter and the next quarter and the next, because it's a one hit. You can only do it once. You can't sack another half of your workforce. And these were the words of Berrada, literally the words of Berrada when he was asked about it. Why is that gone? Berrada's done it, hasn't he? I was literally on the page and it's moved it for me. He said, we are now seeing the positive financial impact of our off-pitch transformation materialise both in our costs and profitability. We'll continue to take a football-first approach, and today's results demonstrate the underlying strength of our business. Look, match day revenue is down because we're not playing enough games. That's very obvious. But we've increased the ticket prices for fans. So you're paying for it. Some of this profit is paid for by you. We've also taken more money out of the rolling debt credit facility, which is more debt. And a vast majority of that profit will be from sacking people and reducing wages. You can only do that once. So all these United fans that are going around going, oh, we've turned a profit, sit down, people who have a pop at Berrada and Sir Jim, we've turned a profit on nothing you want to turn a profit on. Match day revenue is down. We're not making the profit from sales. We're making the profit from sacking people. And we can only do that once. So how are we going to make the profit in the future? Champions League football. Champions League football is how we're going to do it. But to be in the Champions League again next year, we're going to have to spend a lot of money in the summer. They're not going to do that, are they? They're not going to do that. And they've got to get a new manager in as well. So basically, if you want to understand the United situation, right, imagine you've got a house and you're massively in debt. And to survive, you've sold one of your cars, you've sold got rid of a load of stuff that's worth money, and effectively, hold on a minute. Yeah, you've sold your cars, you've got rid of half of your stuff, and then you take the profit from that and you gamble it on red down the casino. And even then, if you win, it won't be enough to clear all your debts. You'll have to probably do it again next year. We've basically gambled. The Champions League is going to rescue us. I was having this conversation with somebody who knows about financials, and they were saying, if you don't get Champions League football, I don't know how Man United would even survive. Because the profit you've turned is because you sacked people. If you don't get in the Champions League, you haven't got any money. You're absolutely in debt. You've got no money. You've sacked half your workforce. You've already got rid of a load of wages. If you don't get Champions League football, you're done. And I said, well, we are going to get Champions League football. And they said, well, you know, you'll survive for another year then. And if you get it again, you might be able to dig yourself out of this. But you know, when I think about it, we're basically run by people who have gambled with our football club. They ain't got no money. The club's riddled with debt. And their whole season is resting on getting Champions League football, of which, if we get Champions League football, by the way, it will be pure luck. Pure luck. Because Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea and Newcastle were favourites for the top 5. Arsenal and Man City are going to get it. Liverpool are about 40 points down from their points total they got last year, with 11 games to go. So they couldn't even do it if they won their 11 games. So they've had a massive drop-off. Chelsea are 25 points down on what they got last year with 11 games to go. And Newcastle are about 30 points down from what they had last year with 11 games to go. So Chelsea, Liverpool and Newcastle have all had a massive fall-off. Well, we're not responsible for that. We're very lucky that the Premier League has opened up like it has and a few teams have dropped off. And that was the strategy for this season. Don't buy a midfielder. Just go into the season, get Champions League football. What if we hadn't got it? What if we hadn't got... I just think it's really... Look, some people might not get it. I think most of you are intelligent enough to get it. I think that when you look at those financials, it's terrifying. The only reason we've turned a profit is because we sacked a load of people. Revenues are down, as we know. Games are down. It's not good. And the Champions League will save us, but... will we get it next year? And will we get it the year after that? And will we get it the year after that? And will we get it the year after that? And it feeds into everything else as well. Because I look at those financials and I go, we are on thin ice. We're teetering on the edge. Which means that a £300-400 million spend in the summer is completely off. You know, that's not happening. We owe £500 million in transfer fees already that we've got to pay. We're not going to go and spend £400 million this summer. And we need to. We're miles off. But suddenly everything starts to make sense to me. I'm not going to scaremonger. Maybe we'll have a good summer transfer window. Maybe we won't. You know, maybe we'll buy 5 players and we'll do it on the books and we'll pay 10 million each and it's 50 million quid and we'll do that for the next 5 years and we'll just push it down the road like we have done with everybody else. But it does start to make sense why we're giving Harry Maguire a new contract. Because he's cheap. It's cheaper to keep somebody that's already here than to replace them. And that strategy is not going to help us get back to the top. Never in a million years are we getting back to the top with this ownership. This club needs somebody with deep pockets, and we've got people with no money. I mean, literally, there was something that came out today. Just listen to this. INEOS, owned by billionaire Sir Jim Ratcliffe, is talking about selling some parts of its business. It has over 18 billion in debt, which grew by 3 billion last year, and the chemicals industry is struggling badly due to high energy prices and cheap imports. Credit agencies have downgraded INEOS and warned it must reduce debt quickly and refinance loans due next year. Radcliffe says conditions in Europe are unsurvivable because of high carbon costs and weak trade rules. The company recently got 175 million from shareholders and 260 million more in financing, and is focusing on cutting costs and staying stable rather than growing. So INEOS is in the shit, basically. Glazers have never put a pound in their life, and INEOS are in the shit. This ain't good. This situation isn't good, and the Champions League qualification will just be a plaster on a massive open wound. It's really not good. And when you've got the CEO, Omar Berrada, trying to big it up by saying, basically, we've saved the money by cutting costs and sacking people, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. You know, what I would say about how Man United have turned a profit, right? We're starving. We're absolutely starving, and we've got a cow in the garden. I take the cow to market, I get a bit of money, and I come home and I go, look, we've got 100 quid. And everyone gets really excited. But then everyone realises that £100 is going to get spent very, very quickly to feeders and everything else. We haven't got another cow in the garden. And that's how I look at these financials. I'm like, we haven't got another cow in the garden. We haven't. We've got money in the pocket now because we've sacked a load of people, but we can only do that once. INEOS are broke by the sounds of it. The Glazers won't put money in. And some of our fans still sit there going, oh, stop being so negative. Well, I'm sorry if you can't figure it out. You got Manchester City buying Gahey and Semenyo last month for over £100 million, giving Gahey 300 grand a week, with an already amazing squad, and they've spent nearly £1 billion in the last 18 months. And then you got Man United not buying anybody in January and turning a profit by sacking people. Like, one club's going that way and one club's going that way. In the short term, you're being fooled. In the long term, it's really scary. The ownership of this football club is terrifying. And ultimately, even if you don't agree, you can't argue with the fact that our owners are business people trying to make Man United sustainable as a business. Whereas other football clubs are owned by rich people who just want that club to be successful and get as much money in as they can. And of course, the overarching thing is somebody might say, well, you know what? What's wrong with making the Manchester United sustainable? We already were. We already were. There's nothing wrong with Manchester United Football Club. It already was turning a profit. The reason they're cutting costs and sacking people is to pay the Glazers' debt. 13 million this season in debt interest. How many people got sacked to pay off interest on a Glazer debt? Imagine that. Imagine that. You work for somebody, you love your job, and someone says you're fired. And you go, why? Well, you know, the owner, we're basically paying his debt off. These are headlines. These are facts. Like, we sacked half our workforce to pay interest on a Glazer debt that's nothing to do with this football club. We're finding ways to raise ticket prices and to pay debt interest. £13 million this year, this season, in debt interest, paid for by people losing their jobs and people like you going to matches and your price of your ticket price going up. It's disgusting. Disgusting what gets buried by this football club. So look, I think we're on thin ice. In the short term, everything looks good. We're winning games. We're probably going to get in the Champions League. I'll tell you what though, let's see where we are in a year, because that Champions League money ain't going to go far. It's not. And also remember, these financials go to December. They don't cover January. So how much did we pay Amrim off? The financials that come out for the next quarter are going to be really interesting because these only go to December the 1st. There's about 15 million to Amrim that's got to go in the next quarter. And on top of that, how many more games have we missed out on compared to last year between January and April? I would hazard a guess. I can't remember what we did in the FA Cup last year, but we played quite a few Europa League games. So, yeah. Yeah, it is scary. But ultimately, I think the thing that annoys me the most is that it's just a very big indicator that ultimately, as a football fan, I want us to go out and get the best manager, whoever they are. If it's Emery, I want to pay Villa and I want to pay Emery. If it's Enrique, I want to pay PSG and I want to pay Enrique. I also want to give that best-in-class manager 300 million quid. Looking at those financials today, I'm sorry, I'd love to be wrong on this, but I'd tell you now, we're being spun like a bloody bottle top. We haven't got the financials to take a top-class manager out of a club. And we haven't got £300 million to give them either. So I would lower your expectations on a manager to right to the bottom. Because this best-in-class bollocks isn't true. We can't afford to go and get a manager out of contract. We can't afford to give that manager 200-300 million quid. So we are going to be looking at chirpy, cheap, aren't we? We're going to be looking at managers that are out of contract and, you know, a limited transfer budget. So, I mean, look, this is what Fabrizio Romano said this evening. Michael Carrick is doing a great job at the moment. If he continues like this, he'll have a very big chance of staying permanently. Well, he's also cheap. So if he keeps doing a good job and he's cheap, he's going to have a very good chance of getting the job. De Zerbi is cheap. Glasner is cheap. Pochettino might be out of contract with USA. Cheap. I'll lay a bet with you now. There's no money involved, but I'll lay a bet with you now. The manager we go for will be cheap. They'll be out of contract and free. We won't take a manager out of a football club. 100%. I'm convinced about that. And as for transfers, well, look, I mean, you can bring quality players in. You can spend £300 million, but you're going to have to pay for it later. And with £500 million owed in transfer fees, it's scary. I mean, I was looking at some of these figures. Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. Really, really scary. And as I said, this was in the BBC article. In August 2025, respected football finance blogger Swiss Ramble placed Everton and Tottenham above Man United in his debt league. However, both those clubs have borrowed to pay for new stadiums. United are yet to say how they intend to finance a stadium that's going to cost $2 billion when they've already got $1.3 billion in debt as of today. Yeah. It is real. It is real, and it is really scary. Let me get into some of your comments. So, Mark, don't call me crazy, but maybe United get sold so the owners can pay their debt for like 5 to 7 billion. Is it a solid take or too wishful, says Chicken Colony? Well, the Glazers don't need to sell. INEOS have got issues, but the Glazers don't. They don't need to sell. They're trying to buy a cricket club, so I don't think the Glazers are going to in any rush to sell. Prior to INEOS purchasing partial stake in our club, the Glazers were obligated to show club's finances. Why did INEOS want to partake in a sinking ship? Says Zero Connection. Yeah, but that's an interesting comment. But that would suggest that the Glazers, INEOS, really cared about the football club. They will have known the debt, and they still bought it because it's a business transaction. It's about the only reason Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got into Manchester United is the regeneration project and the stadium. It's a legacy piece. It's a vanity project. I was the guy who helped build the new stadium. So in years to come, when you're dead, you're the guy who helped build the stadium. So there's a legacy piece there. And also, you double your money. I don't think they gave a shit about that. Look, mate, you don't need due diligence to look at Man United's accounts to know we're in trouble. They pretty much get published every 3 months anyway because we're on the stock exchange. So there's not really any surprises about our debt The BBC have just done an article on it today. So INEOS wouldn't have bought Man United and gone, oh shit, I didn't realise that. They know that. They've bought it to make money. Simple as that. Hi Mark, Man United is a listed entity. Can't they issue a new class of shares if necessary? Also, what about new sponsors from being in the Champions League? Are these not solutions? Interested in your views, says Ryle. They are solutions. They are solutions. I've literally covered this. Being in the Champions League can bring in £100 million, and we are searching for sponsors so we can bring more money in. But I would say to any sponsor of Manchester United, present or future, we're keeping Harry Maguire for another year. Luke Shaw's still going to be here. Mason Mount's still going to be here. That team needs £500 million spending on it yesterday. We won't do that. So we might get in the Champions League this year because Liverpool, Chelsea and Newcastle have dropped off. But next year when they bounce back, I don't think we'll get in the top 5. So we won't be back in it. I think we'll struggle next year. I think any United fan knows next season we're going to struggle because we're going to go from 1 game a week to 2 game a week. Loads of clubs are going to bounce back, and we're probably not going to bring in the volume of players we need to sustain a Champions League run and a Premier League run. I think it's going to be a little bit of a holiday next year in the Champions League. We'll have a look what it's like, enjoy it, and try and come back in a couple of years. But we need to stay there. You know, we need to stay there. Sorry, Phil, I'm just going to remove you because we're actually talking about some breaking news. And if you're not intelligent enough, basically Phil said, come back when you've got something to talk about. Phil's thick. He's stupid. He doesn't understand what the football club that he's meant to be supporting and doesn't understand, you know, the ramifications and the huge issues that the club have. So, Phil, I think the One Show might... Oh, it's finished. The One Show. What can Phil go and watch? Mrs. Brown's Boys, iPlayer? I reckon that might work. People ask me what you want in life. I say I want Man United to win week in, week out. That's my dopamine. That's my heartbeat, says Lord Carrick. Made all these cuts and the debt still rises, says Nick. And Emily Derry says, we all know Arsenal and City will bomb ahead, but who apart from our board think that Liverpool and Chelsea will allow themselves to have a season like this 2 years running? We're running out of fumes. Look, we're very lucky. I mean, Chelsea will just keep spending and spending and spending. I think Chelsea might be the team that miss out on Champions League football. What do you think they're going to do next year? What do you think Chelsea do if they haven't got Champions League football next year? They won't sit on their arse. They made a lot of money in the summer. They made about £100 million winning the Club World Cup. So these clubs are going to come back. They're going to come back. Max says, take 20k per week off top 15 players. It's 50 million a year, says Max. Thank you very much. Howdy, lad, says Rub. Hope you're doing well and had a good day, Mark, says Daniel Thompson. Thank you very much. And I won't be surprised if we finish 15th next season, says Chickens Colony. Yeah, look, I'm not really... NB says they can issue shares to retire some debt, but it would bring the share price down. Look, I don't think that's going to work. I really don't. I mean, I'm not massively educated on shares and the financial system, but if the Glazers could sell a load of shares to get a load of money into their pocket, they'd have done it before, wouldn't they? I don't think it's that easy. And also, it's not that easy when the club's not really doing that well either, is it? I mean, we're all very excited about finishing 5th or 4th or 3rd, but it's still 5th or 4th or 3rd. It's not a title race, is it? We're not... Even if we get into the Champions League, I hear some of our fans talking like it's an amazing season. It's what we needed to achieve. It's not an amazing season. Like finishing 3rd, hopefully, is not an amazing season. It's still miles off a title race. We're Manchester United. So, Mark, my mate told me that Onana might come back. Yeah, we spoke about that this morning, Andy. Emily Derry says, to bring in the revenue to be successful, we need to go deep into the Champions League and the Cups next season while putting together a top 4 run in the league. We're already looking at cutting corners. Yeah, I know, Emily. I mean, look. Some people look at it like that. Some people can look long term. But I think you're right. You know, we've got to go deep in the Champions League to bring the revenue in for next season. And also, we've got to be in the top 4 to go back into the Champions League as well. So I think it's difficult. But look, there was something a little bit light-hearted I wanted to bring in because I'm doing Benfica against Real Madrid. That's why I forgot. That's why I didn't start till about 7:10. So I mean, look, it was on Sky. I mean, say what you want about Sky. I mean, I don't say what you like about Jamie O'Hara. He does put his glasses on when he's on talk. I mean, he talks a load of shit on Talk Sport, and then he puts a pair of glasses on, goes on Sky, and talks a load of shit on Sky. But some of you might agree with him. He said, some people have asked me to respond to this. I'm sure Jamie O'Hara is a nice guy, by the way, but he does talk a lot of shit. He says, I don't think Manchester United are a million miles away from winning the Premier League. That's got to be, and we're only about 2 months into the new year of 2026, but I don't think Manchester United are a million miles away from winning the Premier League has got to be the worst comment, footballing-wise, I've heard this year. I mean, I don't think a team that for a large period of the game against Everton and West Ham was getting dominated can be described as not being far off winning the league. Stylistically, we're sort of playing counter-attacking football. Squad-wise, I don't think we've even got a good first 11. Comments like that don't help. Because the people who are positive and glass half full get excited. And it is a dangerous take, like Andy says. To say that we're not a million miles off the title lets people like Berrada and Wilcox and Sir Jim Radcliffe off the hook. I think we are millions of miles off the title. I don't think we're anywhere near a title. I think if you're going to win a title, you should have done it this year. I remember Liverpool nearly winning it under Brendan Rodgers when they weren't in Europe. I think some people haven't realised the enormity of playing one game a week. And they think because we've done quite well this year, we'll automatically replicate it next year. We're going to get a lot more injuries next year, and we're going to lose a lot more games next year, because playing 2 games a week and travelling ain't the same as playing 1 game a week, put your feet up, go home and everything like that. So I think that yeah, we're miles off winning the Premier League. I mean, for a start, I've seen many Premier League winning sides, and we haven't got 2 fullbacks. We haven't got a midfield. We haven't got a left winger. We don't know whether Bruno's staying. How is this the foundations for not being far off winning the Premier League? I think we're bloody miles off winning it. It doesn't mean we can't win the league in the next 2 years. I mean, things could happen in the summer that change that. And hopefully some of these players are going to get better and better. But we are, to sit and say that we're a million miles off is incredible. Emily Derry says, Jamie O'Hara's right. We aren't a million miles away. We're approximately 10 billion away. Yeah, I think I agree, Emily. I think we're a long way off. We don't even have a manager, Jamie. Like, we don't even have a fucking manager. Like, we've got an interim in charge. You know, we've got Jonathan Woodgate as a coach with Johnny Evans and Steve Holland and Michael Carrick as an interim. How can we not be a million? I don't know whether it's, look, he's probably so used to working on TalkSport that, you know, he's probably saying it for the interaction. But yeah, we're miles off winning the Premier League. And ultimately as well, we sort of go full circle. And this is why I wanted to say it. Even if Carrick's the guy, even if some of these players are potentially Premier League winners, you're going to hit a ceiling very quickly. Even if Michael Carrick's going to be the best manager in football history, he won't win a Premier League at Man United. Because Pep Guardiola won't win a Premier League at Manchester United. Luis Enrique won't win a Premier League at Manchester United, because you'll hit the ceiling of that board very, very quickly. You'll get to a point where you need to go to the next level, and they'll go, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. And that will be the big problem, is that there will be a ceiling with this board that will prevent us. If we had Man City's owners, or we had Chelsea's owners, or we had Arsenal's owners, then maybe we could. But I don't see it at all. Bloody hell, Atalanta have beaten Dortmund 4-1. And Dortmund have had 2 players sent off. That's massive. That's absolutely massive for Atalanta to do that. Huge turnaround. Well done to them. Well, I'm on That's Football for Real Madrid against Benfica. A lot of people have said, like, why are you doing it? Just because I think there's such an edge to that game. I mean, what happened last week was huge in football. Absolutely huge. And I just think it's going to be an atmosphere. I think it's going to be a I think it's going to be a really interesting game. So I thought, yeah, sod it, I'll watch it. Okay, let me get into some of your comments. Thanks everyone who's been tuning in, by the way. Will you quit this when we win the league, says Rory. Look, in fairness, Rory, I have said that. I don't know whether I'm serious. I mean, look, it depends. We might not see a Premier League win for Manchester United in the next 10 years. We might not see one in the next 20. I would hope that we will, but it's been 13 without, and it's gone like that. I mean, that 13 years has just gone so fast. So I'd like to be in a position that we win the league in the next 5 to 10 years, and I can sit there in the summer and go, maybe it's time to go and do something else. And I'd love to share it with everybody. I mean, look, my favourite show we've ever done was winning the Europa League with Mourinho. I loved that night. It was just brilliant. And I loved beating Lyon last season. These are the moments I really want. I mean, we've had a lot more rages than we've had happiness, but when we get that happiness, it's the best. It's the best feeling in the world. So I'd love for us to be there. And that's why we moan. That's why we call it out, because I want that. I tell you what, when we won in 2008 in Moscow, I wasn't moaning about the Glazers. Fuck them. I was like, we've done this despite them. I want that. So, yeah, but it's going to be very difficult with this ownership. Very, very difficult. I mean, they're turning a profit by sacking people. Another example, I own a bar and a restaurant, and we're losing money. I've got 3 chefs. I sack 1 of them. I've got 8 waitresses. I sack 4 of them. I've got 4 bar staff. I sack 2 of them. Next month, I turn a profit because I've got rid of all their wages. I'm not getting any more people coming into the restaurant. And that's Man United. We've turned a profit by sacking people. We haven't turned a profit because we're making more money from ticket sales or anything like that. We've lost money there, but we've made the money by sacking people. Well, the problem with that restaurant is that doing the same job with less people, eventually the quality of your food that you're serving up and how quick you do it and your customer service is going to drop. And then you're going to lose money again. And then it's going to be like, we're losing money. And you're going to go, well, I can't sack anybody else. When we do, I'll buy you a pint. Would love a debate, says Rory. Thank you very much, pal. They run the club on Bon Jovi settings, living on a prayer, no vision, sustainability, ambition, no care for success. Champions League vital for football, but survival, says Daniel. Man United is 1 billion. The profits go to INEOS, says Aman. Don't quit, says Sir Gareth Southgate. Good times are coming. Look, if there's one positive to take out of these financials, is you look at them and you go, if we had another season out of Europe, I don't know what we'd do in the summer. I don't think there's any wiggle room at all. If we weren't in Europe this summer, you look at those financials and you go, well, the warning sign's there. Everything's dropping. We've turned a profit because we've sacked people that we can't sack again. So we can't do this. We can't do this. And then you get people going, well, Rashford's wage will be gone. Casemiro's wage will be gone. Yeah, Rashford and Casemiro will be gone as well. A left winger and a midfielder. They have to be replaced. So we're very lucky that we've got a chance to get in the Champions League because other teams have been shit this year. Because if we didn't, and that could have happened, that is not... What I'm trying to say is, it's not... The scary thing for me is, it's luck. This is not good planning by Wilcox, Berrada and Sir Jim. They haven't masterminded us getting into the Champions League. We're going to get into it because 3 clubs, which you could never have foreseen, have dropped off. And we've took that opportunity. If they hadn't dropped off, we might be 7th. And then we'd be in real shit. So, in a way, the positive is we've been quite lucky. Okay, right, I better get off because there is this Champions League game to come. Look, please do get your comments in. I would suggest that you go and read some stuff about it, but if not, I think we've covered most things that I wanted to cover tonight. We're still paying interest payments on the debt. And yeah, we're on very thin ice as a football club. And long term, long term, the big statement is this is a guide to our ownership. Our ownership sacks people to make money. That's not sustainable. In the long term, it's not sustainable. Manchester City spend money. We don't want to spend money. We don't want to put money in, and it's a problem. Would you really end everything if we win the Premier League? Says 1-0. That sounds really bad. Would you really? I was asked whether we'd stop the United stand, not end everything. I don't like that word at all. Rephrase it, please. Right, thanks everyone for watching. Take care, and I'll see you over on That's Football in about 5 minutes.